Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I've returned to the Craggy Gardens area where I'm going to be doing the final hike for myself on the North Carolina Lookout Tower Challenge. This hike is for the where what was located the little Snowball Mountain Fire Tower, which has been disassembled and relocated near the town of Barnesville. So in this video we'll include most of the hike up there. I'm not sure if I'm going to film all the way past Hawkbill Rock or not, but we'll at least film to that point. And then towards the end of the video, we'll show you where the lookout tower has been relocated to. So from here, I'll have to commute back to I believe it's the Big Ivy Historical Campus is where it's been commuted to. I'm not sure how close we can get to it, but I think you can at least drive by it and see where it is. So like I said before, this is my final fire tower on the North Carolina Fire Tower Challenge. So this will be the final video in that series of videos. So in just a minute, we'll see you on the trail. All right, so the hike does start here on the Mountains of Sea Trail, just outside the parking lot I showed you in the last video. You immediately get a sign here that tells us we got 1/10 of a mile to the Snowball Trail, 3.7 miles to the tower, and 1.5 miles to Hawksbill Rock. So won't be on the MST for too long, I don't believe. So we'll see the condition of the Snowball Trail. This is MST, which is usually in really good condition, easy to follow, and traffic pretty well. So it's never overgrown that I've seen any of the places I've been on it. Really surprised by the amount of people that's here. Must be some view from Hawksbill Rock to draw in this many people. So as it was described, not far at all till we hit the Snowball Trail. So at this initial junction here, you just continue straight. It looks like maybe we're gonna have yellow blazes. You see the one there? So I didn't mention before, but today's date is Saturday, April 29th, 2023. Currently about 55 degrees right here where I'm at. Just a very, very light to no breeze currently. I think the high is expected to be around 61, 62 today for this area. And this parking area was just located maybe 1.5 miles, 2 miles from the parking areas for the Craggy Pinnacle. And actually drove up there by accident and had to turn around and come back. GPS kind of sent me further up to Parkway than it should have, but figured it out pretty quick and made my way to the right spot. This hike is rated as moderate, I believe. I think we're expected to climb somewhere around 1,000 feet, so maybe on the challenging side of moderate for the distance. So should be a pretty decent workout. And I actually put this hike off really to the end just because the tower is not actually on the hike, which to me mentally that just kind of deterred me from wanting to do it in a hurry like the others. So that's kind of my reason for having this one last. So this is a nice lookout spot just off the trail here. You can kind of see somewhat of a view. This trail doesn't waste any time making you climb. I'm almost at the peak of Snowball Mountain. Not Little Snowball, but just Snowball, which you actually come to first. Has an elevation of 5,335 feet, I believe, to be exact. And you're kind of walking along like a ridge line here almost. You have a nice view. It is through the trees, but you can see it. See the view you have on the right. A nice little section of the trail here. The only section so far that hasn't been a climb. I know we'll descend 300 to 500 feet down to the next part where we're going, I believe. So get a little bit of a break here until we return. I have to say, to have as many cars in the parking as there was, I've only encountered 2 other people so far. So that's definitely a plus. It's been pretty peaceful for the most part. Only really hearing the birds chirping and squirrels kind of shuffling around a little bit every so often. So it's been quite nice. The next stop is Hawkbill Rock. Should be there shortly. .6 miles. So while we're enjoying this section of the trail, just want to mention real quick that, like I said at the beginning of the video, this is my final Fire Tower Challenge hike. Some of the towers I will probably do a revisit on at some point. Probably not in the near future, but there are some that, a couple of the hikes that have really stood out to me. And I know I'd want to do a return. But probably my favorite one, I think, may surprise some if you've looked over the list of them. It's actually one of the smaller ones, is the Mount Cameron Fire Tower. It's actually a combination of hiking through some of North Carolina and then into Tennessee some. I think the tower itself actually sits in Tennessee, but the state line is kind of straddles through Mount Cameron. That was probably one of my, if not my favorite, definitely top 3, if not my favorite one. And I just wanted to give that a mention. It's probably one of the more, it's probably the second or third most strenuous hikes to get to that one, but the views I had up there, 360-degree views, and actually had some images I was able to take. If you go back and look in the video, where the clouds were just kind of sitting down and resting between some of the peaks. So that's a really awesome view from up there that day. Timed it just right, I believe. But I'm not going to mention any of the others. If you go on my channel, I have a playlist that's called NC, I think I've got it named NC Fire / Lookout Towers. And I do not have a video for every single one, but I think I have a good 15 or more of them. You can look through there and maybe gather some insight from some of the hikes and information about the towers. And final thing I want to say is I really enjoyed doing the challenge. Explored different areas of North Carolina that really didn't even know didn't even know about. And actually had the book, the Lookout Tower book by Peter Barr. So if you do a Google search for that, you will find the book, and I ordered that on Amazon before I really just got started with the challenge. And it has great information in there. A lot of it I used because GPS is not going to get you to every one of these hikes. So that's something, if you decide to do this challenge, I highly recommend you pick up a copy of that. And I don't know him personally. I've never had a conversation with him. Not affiliated with him in any way, but is an excellent resource. And I will continue to use that in the future on some of the return hikes that I do. So just want to include kind of a little bit of thoughts on the challenge itself and everything it entailed. Overall, really good experience, and I'm glad I did it. Bit of scrambling to come up here now. This trail's definitely got ups and downs. Whew. Made it. Right over here. Hawkbill Rock. Very nice view. Good spot for a break too. Getting back on the trail now. I did encounter 6 people here at Hawkbill Rock, and took a little break, and all 6 of them turned back the other way. So unless there's someone ahead of me, maybe the only one on this last 2.2 miles to the old fire tower spot. So the plan is to turn around, kick it in a little bit higher gear, and knock some of this out. Looks like the blazes have went to a red color instead of yellow, as we've seen before. Hawkbill. Not sure if it'll stay that way all the way to Little Snowball or not, but that's what I'm encountering now. And just to kind of recap what I've done so far, started there at that parking area, and then you ascend up to Snowball, and then you descend down to Hawkbill, except for the last part just before where you have to scramble a little bit. And now I believe we're going to descend again, for the most part, to Little Snowball and the fire tower site. So that's kind of what I've seen so far. Maybe there'll be some kind of leveled off spots to not make it such a difficult trek on the way back, but I'm not counting on it. I'm expecting it to be more primitive, and probably a lot of the steepness we've already seen. But this is the final one. I'm going to see it all the way through, and as I mentioned before, drive to the spot and show you exactly where the tower rests now. Got a woodpecker around here somewhere. Quite a few of these little wildflowers that are popping up right on the trail. Very nice. I want to correct something I said earlier. If you're only hiking to Hawkbill Rock, I think the elevation gain may be around 1,000. But if you're doing the full Snowball trail to the tower site, it's closer to 2,000. So this hike is rated as hard. Give you my honest opinion on that whenever I make it to the end. So far, I wouldn't say it's hard. It's been moderate up to this point, but I think I'm just past the halfway point, so still quite a bit left to see. So that opinion may change drastically. So quite often since I've left Hawkbill Rock, I see these signs every so many feet. Pretty persistent amount of signs here. I want to say as far as it's so close as maybe 20 yards a piece or less. Not sure what it means by access by permission only. As far as I know, there was not any permission required to do this hike. I have to read up on that a little more. But it's interesting. So many signs out here. A couple of them have been kind of mangled where someone's tried to rip them off, I believe. But thought I'd mention that. Looks like we're going to be descending a little again. Lots and lots of little wildflowers. Just on both sides of the trail. Video's probably not going to pick it up the best, but man, lots of these and then the other ones I showed you earlier. Little red trilliums are here and there too. Alright, so we're hiking now. It appears to be remnants of maybe an old logging road, which would make sense to have a road take you towards the direction where this tower was. Need to check my map and see how close we are. I believe we might be getting pretty close to it. Probably under half a mile, I bet. So we should reach our destination pretty soon, I'm thinking. Ready for another little break too. Tell you, the bees are really buzzing through here. All these wildflowers. I'd be doing well if I don't get stung. There's so many of them. Wow. A little bit of a water runoff here. I feel like, oh, it's just a little spring. So we got a water source here if we need water. Nice. Had no idea that was going to be here. I believe our destination is just beyond the top of this little knoll right here. So almost there. All right. I'm at the top of the little hill I just showed you in the last clip. And I believe, according to the map, the summit is right here through these trees. There's a little bit of a faint path that goes up here, and then the trail continues. So we're gonna go up this little hill and see if that's our spot. I believe it probably is, but we're gonna follow this little faint path you can see here and see if this is it. It's just a real short distance. So even if it's not it, it won't be adding too much aggravation to our hike. So this is definitely the summit of Little Snowball. I do not see the remaining concrete pillars anywhere. Poke around for just a minute and see if we see something else. Maybe we need to continue down the trail. I have to check my information I have saved to see if it's not actually at the summit. Maybe it's not. So after careful inspection and review of my coordinates and map, we do have to hike a little further down the Snowball Trail to get to the side of the tower. But nonetheless, now I have summited Snowball and Little Snowball both. And it was not really much further than I showed you to go up there, so that'll be just fine. So my calculations, we've got somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 mile to go to reach the site, and I'm expecting it to kind of be pretty easy going between here and there. So that'll be the next clip when we arrive there. Here we go. Made it. Wow. All right, so this is the area where the fire tower actually stood. I still do believe where we was at just a little bit ago was the summit of this mountain. I could be wrong, but I want to say by the map it was noting that the summit was where we was at just previously. But anyhow, I'm going to give just a little bit of information. I don't have a lot today for this one. And then after this clip, there may be a few more in between on the hike back. And then I'm going to show you the tower where it sits and the condition, all that it's in. And get as close to it as I can, but I'm not certain of how close I can get, but we will be able to see it in the video. So the tower that once stood here, on top of this ridge, is now on the grounds of the Big Ivy Historical Campus near Bardensville, like I mentioned before. And it was built in 1934. It was 21 foot tall and had a live-in style cabin on top of it. And it was used for fire detection until 1980. And it was going to be demolished, and a local resident, whose name I'm not going to mention, purchased it from the United States Forest Service. And I'm not exactly sure if he was involved in physically doing it, but one way or another, he had it dismantled, torn down, and took down the mountain, which I can imagine was quite a task. He may have had really good funding, or just a wealthy person in general, to be able to accomplish that, because it wasn't necessarily an easy hike to get here. I mentioned earlier about the difficulty, and I would rate this one, having to do what all I've done to this point and back, as a difficult hike. So 2,000 feet, around 2,000 feet total in elevation. So just use your imagination of what that took to disassemble a fire tower and bring it back. But it was kind of the same style, as I'll show you in a few clips later. Same style of tower as like Green Knob, Rich Mountain, just kind of the smaller, more standard fire tower that kind of had maybe 1 or 2 flights of steps to get up to it. Probably stands about 3 stories high, roughly. So it wasn't a huge fire tower, but nonetheless, that's a lot of material to have to take down and take out of here. So that's pretty much all the information I have for it. There is more in the book that I mentioned earlier. I'll leave it up to you to look that up and maybe get a copy of that and read up on it. But I'm gonna take a little break here, have some water, and start my hike back. I do appreciate anyone who's made it this far in the video and has listened to my extra rambling in this one. I usually don't narrate quite as much. Given this was my last tower hike, I figured I'd give a few extra comments and share a little more detail and talk about the journey to some of them a little bit. So I appreciate you listening to me. As always, I appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoyed what you saw, maybe give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't.